We welcome Geoff Kasher as our darshan this morning. Geoff lives in South Florida with his wife Allison and two children, Andrew and Alexa. He's an active member of the ADL. And in the note that I was handed here, I was told to say the following, that of all of the uncles from Florida, Geoff is Dylan's favorite. And of all of his nephews who are having a bar mitzvah today, Dylan happens to be Geoff's favorite. Having said that, pleasure to be able to welcome up to the Bima, Geoff Kasher. Welcome.
Bob Dylan, Ellis Russo. The answer is always blowing in the wind. Thank you for bestowing on me this honor, your most favored uncle. How's that? Your most favored uncle from Florida. I have learned so much in preparing this talk, so thank you. In 1858, upon accepting his party's nomination for U.S. Senate, a little-known politician named Abraham Lincoln delivered a speech that is still quoted today. The famous quote, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." So too, during the days of Joseph and Judah, was a house divided, the house of Israel. The people were divided into two often warring kingdoms. Coincidentally, their kingdoms were also north and south. In a prophecy, Ezekiel was commanded by God to gather two sticks. One he was to label for Joseph and his kingdom, and the other for Judah. God then bound the two sticks together, symbolizing the unification of both kingdoms into one in the ancestral homeland. Once the unification was complete, it was foretold that the Messianic era would begin. So with all of this, two questions came to me. First, since God is this all-powerful being, why instead of a prophecy of unification, didn't he just cause the unification to happen right then and there? Why not usher in the time of the Messiah? After all, wasn't it God who rained down plagues on the Egyptians, parted the sea, sent manna from heaven? Compared to these feats, unification could have been done in just a snap of the divine fingers. I mean, come on. Why didn't God just do it for us then? Now also would be a pretty good time to do it. After all, we are your children, your chosen people. You created us in your image and imbued us with godliness. Haven't we worked hard enough, suffered enough? In fact, I think we deserve it. Is it me, or did I just sound like somebody's child demanding something? Something that my children would never, ever do. The answer is really quite simple. The prophecy is a promise of unification that will happen at some undetermined time in the future. Why can't we get just a tiny little hint of when it's going to happen? It doesn't have to be too much, just a little tiny hint. Unfortunately, there can't be. Imagine how we would all feel sitting here today, December 22nd, 2012, only to learn that the unification, the reunification of all of the kingdoms of God would occur 100 years from today, December 22nd, 2112. How differently would we live our lives? Would we still be people full of hope of what was to come, what could be possible? Or would we turn to people of complacency? What then would be the purpose of living our lives? God's promises, past, present, and future, all require human involvement and human leadership to be fulfilled. Taking these a bit out of order, God needed someone to take the Hebrews out of Egypt, and that was Moses. God needed someone with complete devotion and unflinching dedication to fulfill his promise of a covenant, and that was Abraham. God also needed someone who had complete devotion and extraordinary courage of what might possibly happen, and that was Isaac, who went with knowledge of what was going to occur as he and his father walked up the hill. God needed Jacob to reconcile with Judah, to ultimately become Israel. The next question that occurred to me was, who will be the person to cause the unification of what God had promised? What would God do to inspire this person? It seems to me that such a person in our history has only been born from catastrophic or terrifying events. Has any leader ever come forward in times that are good to lead us more forward? I looked. I couldn't find any. Maybe I turned to the almighty Google and put in that question, and it came back with 0 hits. Can we think of anything that could possibly occur? It's unfortunate, but it is these horrific incidents that really inspire us, that draw us together, not only as a community, not only as a state, not only as a country, but as an entire world, focusing our attention on one tragic incident that happened. The number of tragic incidents that we can refer to are seemingly endless. 9/11, Columbine, Katrina, Virginia Tech, Superstorm Sandy, and most recently, Sandy Hook Elementary. Unfortunately, the unity that springs up from these tragedies soon fades away. We all get back lulled into our everyday lives, back into the routine that we all follow, until that next tragic event occurs, when there is this groundswell of unity that comes up. I'm hopeful about the future. Anybody else? Thank you. I'm hopeful about the promise that tomorrow brings. I'm hopeful in my children and your children that person may be sitting right here. It lays in all of us, this quest. It lies deep inside of us, dormant and asleep, but it is an inextinguishable quest for true unification of all peoples and the untold good that can happen. It's all within us, waiting to be awoken. It lays not just in Jews, but in Muslims, Catholics and Protestants, Hindus and Buddhists, and all other religious faiths. This inside godliness waiting to spring out. It lays in people of all color, white, black, every color that is imaginable on our planet. And yes, it even lays within Republicans and Democrats. At any moment, this quest for unification can be triggered. We just have to know how to sustain that unity forever and not to go back to complacency and our normal lives. When will this force be triggered? What will the event be? And who will rise up to take that task has yet to be answered. But it could happen right here this morning. It can happen as we walk out of the doors of the synagogue. And it could be the person who is sitting right next to you. Dylan, thank you. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.